September 24th Board of Education meeting at 7:11 p.m. So let's stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Dr. Willett, do we have any acknowledgements tonight?
No, but I would maybe like to take the opportunity to introduce our two new student reps, which is very exciting, which you will be hearing from them in a minute as we get to that point in the agenda. It's Camilla, right? No, screw that up. Camilla and Angela.
Well, welcome. We're really happy to have you. Thank you for coming. And please know that we understand, your schedules, your busy students, and if you ever, if you need to leave after you give your report, please feel free. If you'd like to stay, you can always stay. If you'd like to contribute at all, just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Just to add, if I could, it's important that you guys know that your voice is important to us in our discussions because you're in school with all the students that we're, deciding on rules and plans and everything for. So don't hesitate to speak up and contribute to the conversation and the discussion. It's very important that we hear from you. It's been a long time since most of us have been in school, so it's helpful to hear your voices.
Okay, so next is, are there any additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to add a second discussion on open choice with anticipation of moving it to action and a vote.
Okay. So Dr. Willett, I'm new at this. What's the best way to do that? Would Bill do a motion?
Did you make a motion to add it to the
I
agenda?
would like to make a motion to add a second discussion on open choice to the agenda with anticipation of moving it to action.
A second,
Second.
and then you can have discussion if you want. And we can have discussion about whether you want to add it or not, and then you vote. We'll
Okay.
all vote because we're a hybrid.
Okay, any discussion? All right. So let's vote. Start with Rainey,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Jaden,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So we will add that to,
So you can add that as, you're adding that as N3 maybe?
directly board action.
Well, you can't, I mean, right, actually, you didn't make it board, you can make it L2 and then. Actually, it's old business, make it M1. It's old business, so I would say M1.
Yeah.
Adding it as M1. And then we'll talk about it there, and then you can move it to action.
Okay. All right, so then now let's move on to the approval of minutes. So I will entertain a motion for the approval of the September 10th, 2025 minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Yeah. So. Any discussion? So we'll vote. Rainey?
Aye.
Brian?
Stan.
Bill?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So the minutes are approved. Okay, so now we'll move on to public participation. There is a 2-minute limit. The members of the Tolland Board of Education welcome members of the public to share their thoughts and ideas at this time. When appropriate to do so, members of the board and the administration may respond to comments during points of information. However, in consideration of those in attendance and in an effort to proceed in a timely manner, follow-up discussion may need to take place outside of the meeting setting. So it doesn't look like we have anyone from the community in the room, so we go online. Would anyone like to participate? I looked at Pete before I made the
In
statement.
the community, but
All right, going once. Going twice. Okay, we will close public participation, unless, of course, Pete, you've reconsidered.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on to correspondence.
We had two emails coming, one questioning next year's school calendar. Of the start date for school. I'm pretty sure we're not ready to deal with that one yet. And Dr. Willett responded to that. And then another email concerning a student issue that Dr. Willett handled as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving on to points of information, would any board members like to say anything at this time?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So few couple pluses on one minus or question. I like to say that my kids are loving the new cheese pizza at Birch Grove and TIS. The chess club, that was my wife put together through the library. We had our first one Monday night and maxed out at 20 kids from first grade all the way up to ninth grade. So
Wow.
Nice.
they'll be running, I think, every 2 or 3 weeks. They got it. I don't know. It's on the library website. And then the other one I had was some looked like some community members are concerned about the bulletin, about the TIS. There was a notification from, I think it was 3 to 3:30, that there was no availability for student pickup, I guess, in the office at that time. So staffing issues, so I know there was a few comments, some of the community pages that I'm on regarding that. So I don't know how that can be rectified if students do need to be picked up prior to the end of the day, but it's within that window of time. So I don't know what you think
So
about
what,
that.
can you restate what that
So at 3 o'clock,
for TIS?
yeah,
Yeah,
the 3:30, there was a message in the bulletin. The students were unable to be picked up, I guess, in the office because of staffing issues. So I don't know what the remedy is or notification. The parents may be a different avenue of being able to still pick up your child at that time, but maybe just not in the office. Cause I guess the statement was regarding that they had to assist with the transportation, you know, for vehicle pickup and then the buses and all that kind of stuff, so.
was it just for that day or was that a message that it's in perpetuity?
I'm gonna pull it up.
Because it could be that maybe there was some illness or something and they had to do it that day.
But wasn't it in the bulletin to
It
the,
was in the bulletin for today. I'll give you the exact word.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
And it's just listed under after school pickup, please note, and it's highlighted, due to the elimination of a front office position, we are short-staffed in the main office. We are not able to accommodate student pickups in the office between 3 and 3:30.
The school day isn't until what, 3:15, I think, and then I know even the parent pickup in the back is not usually until like 3:25 or 3:30 is 3:25. It's very hectic there, so.
Yeah. So
I mean,
maybe
I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah.
It is possible that.
No, I understand,
there
yeah.
are problems with that.
Yeah.
The buses and everything, and,
Yeah,
you know, but I will. Maybe.
Are you done?
yes, I'm done. Sorry, yes,
Oh,
sorry.
no, because it just
Yeah.
triggered with what you just said, Dr. Willett, it's triggered a question about that. I mean, that was your superintendent email. You're not aware of that? Do you not?
That
raise
was probably a digital backpack.
Right,
Right, so there's 4 digital backpacks that are linked to the superintendent's, you know,
Okay.
education. So it links to their individual building stuff.
so does the principal write that, any of those
Usually the
updates?
principal will
Gotcha.
write that. There's some specific, school-specific things that will be, you know, that may be happening that I would have
Okay.
to look into.
I actually have one more thing.
No, I'm good.
So one more thing, I received an email, I signed my sign up for the FRC Spanish Club at Birch Grove. They're still looking for 3 more available slots if anybody in the K through 2 age range would like to do the Spanish. I think it starts next week or the week after. So, that's all I got.
Thanks. Dana?
Hi. So I just wanted to say congratulations. Well, fantastic turnout for the Eagle Scramble and the boosters this weekend. Phenomenal success, sold out, fantastic program. So just cheers to the Boosters Club for what they do day in and day out. And I'm sure Jen, you probably have it in your communications of different PTO stuff, but just a reminder, I know my house is going to be very excited to bring bags and bags and bags of cans to the can drive that is on Saturday for project graduation. I believe it's this coming Saturday at the high school. So it's a great event that the kids have and that the boosters put on. So let's continue to support our boosters for those for project graduation.
Thanks, Dan. All right, moving on to the student representatives report. First one.
Sure. So it has come to the students' attention that we know that we recently have been using the smart passes. And we wanted to know if for the locker minutes, if it could be extended a little bit more, because if you look at, for example, from culinary to either your classes upstairs or all the way down at the ends where the English hallway is, it's not enough time in 5 minutes to get back and forth to your class. And as well as the cost of clubs and sports, because many students right now are also struggling to find money to pay for those with clubs that they really want to join. And we wanted to see if maybe we could either waiver the fee or do like fundraising, like around like Camille's or Maria's dining, or maybe the spot where we could raise money to lower the cost for the clubs or sports altogether. Because seniors were like, you know how like they're going to colleges, they need sports and clubs on their recommendations and things, and they can't really do that without having to pay such a high cost to join these clubs.
And then just adding on to what Camilla said, I know we already have the Alice Enrichment program in place, but I was looking at that and it seems like the max price you can get can basically cover one club. I don't even think a full sport and let alone multiple clubs. And in this day and age where colleges and the college search post high school is very competitive, it's important to students and their families that they're in multiple extracurriculars, and it's making it harder for certain students to access those programs. And then another new addition this year was an extra Eagle Block Monday as well as Thursdays. And I think we found as a student community that that can be very helpful, because I find that a lot of us got frustrated with the SEL lessons taking up time that could be used for homework or meeting with teachers. And I think it's better for makeup work now. So like if you're out on a Friday, you're not gonna have to wait until that next Thursday to try to make up a quiz or a test or anything like that. And then what student council has done this week and the past week in our first 2 meetings, we've started brainstorming ideas for homecoming themes and Spirit Week ideas, as well as Eagle Valley event ideas. So far we're still in the brainstorming phase. We took some votes in student council last week on Monday. And then I think we're going to be putting some stuff out on the Tolland High School Student Council social media, and also bringing these ideas to admin to get approved.
Great, thank you. So just to clarify, when you mentioned the extra Eagle Block, you were saying that what has been added this year works for you
Yes.
guys.
We find it beneficial.
So in terms of the Smart Pass, I've been hearing a little bit about that at home too, from my high school student.
Not a shocker.
And then on top of that, you know, obviously the clubs and sports is something that this board definitely really struggled with. We really understand, you know, where you're coming from here. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm sure we will continue to have further discussions on it. What I would like to ask though is that when it comes to things like this, and by the way, kudos to you guys for starting out strong with some questions. Especially on a night where I'm chairing. What kind of avenues could we, I don't want to leave these questions unanswered for our students. And obviously I can't provide answers to those things right now. What kind of avenues could we go down so that we could either provide them a path for maybe the student council to talk about, especially the smart pass with administration. I do think, the fundraising option towards clubs is interesting. I'm not sure, obviously I'm familiar with the PTO world and the boosters world. I'm not sure if that's maybe also another path you guys might want to discuss, but if the school can provide that, and maybe I think you're smart to think about reaching out to local businesses to see if they would sponsor certain clubs. How could they explore these things?
Yeah, so Camilla and Angela, you did a great job of obviously also looking at things like Alice and trying to figure out, what would be a path to, ask for help, that type of thing. How could we address some of these things, doing fundraising, all of that. So it's really good. You did a great job of kind of doing some homework and coming in. First stop on the train, we're talking about things like the smart pass would be Mr. Polk. So I would have him come to the student council and engage with him. You and I, both of you and I will be meeting to talk about things, but we also can meet anytime to address or go after any things you think would be interesting, which, something worthwhile doing. Fundraising, would be great. We just have to talk about the logistics of it, like who would do it, how, there are some people, there is a club, I think, inside a club, a student at the high school did begin a THS fundraising program at one point. Mr. Tolland would probably know a little bit more about the status of that, but that could be something we could leverage to do more fundraising. And I know she had started it, I think, a year or two ago, so maybe it just needs to be restarted. But then we can work collaboratively to try to find ways that you could do that. Any student who has a what's called free and reduced lunch status, a parent or guardian can go and sign up. If they feel like they qualify for a free or reduced lunch for their kids. And if you're in a free and reduced lunch status, there's a form you fill out, a family can fill out. Then they either don't pay for the club or sport at all, or they pay a greatly reduced rate. If a family doesn't qualify for free and reduced lunch, that's when, Angela, you had talked about Alice, which was really good. You obviously looked that up, it's great. That's when something like that kicks in. And that is actually from the Common Greater Together community, like that's a grant. Ms. Vallow would help get that, so that's another thing we could try to do is look for grant opportunities, because the ALS program that you referenced is a grant. And so maybe, the community partnerships would love to hear from students, because that you might even have a more compelling presentation and say some adults, or not adults, but some of the other people in the community would, because students have a very loud voice with these groups. So that's just to know that's going on right now. For clubs and activities, maybe it might make you feel a little better to know we've actually had a lot of outreach for donations. So there are already a lot of clubs that have had no being, but there may be some clubs that would not be able to run without donations, and we have at least 3 groups lining up to make donations. So if a group only has 7 kids, there are some people that are willing to make donations to make it a full 15 to make that club run. So there's a good chance a lot of them will run. So your advocacy is awesome and heard loud and clear, and I think people are coming out to make donations for that. So there's a lot, when we get to sit down together, we can talk about a lot of those things. But it's good to check in with Mr. Poland on certain things, because there may be some things underway or that he's working on for Smart Pass or whatever. He's the direct one to go to, and then, obviously you can talk to me too. We'll be talking along the way. So good stuff though. You came in really nice job.
Dr. Willett, I know this is said back and forth online from many people, but if there was a community member out there that wanted to make a donation specifically for clubs to help out, to provide funding for clubs, how would that community member go about doing that? Would they contact you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they would contact me because of the way it's all sort of structured.
right. And I mean, that could be any denomination amount. It doesn't have to be a couple I mean, it could be $100 if someone wants to pay extra, just to help out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and any little bit helps.
Sure.
Can we add that to maybe bulletin or a digital backpack in the schools that just says, if you'd like to, you know.
Have you seen the club hub?
Yes, but is,
It's in there.
yeah, but in case you don't click into the club hub, like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe just putting, you
We've
know.
said it in a couple meetings, but yeah,
Like, we can have something kind of emboldened that just says, if you'd like to donate, cause like, for instance, if I didn't have a student doing the club, I wouldn't go into the club hub, but if I saw that there was donations, I might say, I'll donate towards clubs.
But I think
Maybe-
the problem is that's only going as far, if you're looking for people from the community, I think we need to find a different way than just that. Because that, like Rainey was saying previous, she doesn't get the bulletin.
Yeah,
So
After saying I don't get.
an 80-year-old neighbor who maybe wants to donate $25 is not gonna know how to donate $25. Or even
There are
know-
other avenues then, I
Yeah.
mean, we could put
I don't know
out
if it's not
superintendent's
town
on
or I don't know.
Facebook, but not everybody's gonna be on that.
Yeah.
Put it in the rec
I
magazine,
mean,
but
we'll just make a point of, we have done some of this, but I will reinvigorate that. You know,
Yeah.
There's a link on there to make donations, but I'll just throw it up in the center and, you know, when you do things on Facebook, it does go beyond our parent population.
Mhm.
You know, we can ask the town to put it out on their blast, but they also want donations too, so.
Can you ask them?
No, of course, yeah,
Maybe-
it's just, we wouldn't be doing it every week,
No, I'm
Well,
just saying
that's
one
good.
time now that the clubs are starting, I'm not saying that.
periodically.
If they just do it one time, I think that's
Right.
sufficient for me. Sorry, Bill.
you know, I'm also thinking of a catchy campaign of maybe sponsor a child in a club. And you can just sponsor one kid and, you know,
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate. We are in a wonderful community. You know, there are many in America. This is one of them. And we had quite a few people step up. We've done a lot of communicating about donations for that particular purpose, and we have at least 3 or 4 groups and organizations that have stepped up for that. So you know, we're probably, I mean, we're probably gonna have a lot of these funded because of the kindness of many others.
Good.
Yeah.
So I just I noted down that you guys are through the student council, you're going to discuss the Smart Pass issue with Mr. Poland. And then you're going to talk about the fundraising and the clubs and sports issue when you meet with Dr. Willett. So just if you find that you need additional help, please don't hesitate to reach out to our board email or Dr. Willett. If you feel like you want to bring this up again at the next meeting, because you feel like you need additional help, please do. So thank you again for bringing these up. Oh,
Yeah,
Bill
you
has
should
another question.
bring things to the meetings that you want to talk about. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I
If
think
you
it's-
want to kind of get communication to and from the board, come to me and I'll help you do that.
question, Smart Pass, you said you guys get 5 minutes with that?
Yeah, from depending on where you're going, for example, with the bathrooms, it's 7 minutes. With the lockers, it's 5 minutes, and if you're going to the main office, it's usually with the main office or the nurses, it's a one-way pass where you have a certain amount of time to get there to end your pass.
So what kind of extension for those 5 and those 7 minutes are you guys looking for? Only because I know her son who would probably want to double it or triple it.
He's talking about those 7 minutes.
I mean, I really don't think we're asking for much. I know sometimes, people have to use the bathroom, people have to attend to their needs. So I think, especially for women, honestly, 10 minutes is more appropriate. And then for lockers, I mean, I'm already running around the school between classes. I don't really need to be running anymore. So I think more closer to 7 to 8 minutes would be better, just to give you peace of mind, because obviously when we're going to and from, you can't see how much time you have left on your Smart Pass. So I think sometimes that makes people a little nervous, a little anxious, like, what if I don't get back in time? I don't want to get in trouble.
Right. I did ask that of my son. I said, what happens if you're not back in time from the bathroom? He's like, I think you get a warning.
What
Well,
is
some of those things may be excused.
Smart Pass is a new technology that we're using to allow for students to have a variety of options on signing up for different activities. The passes aren't paper passes anymore when you're going, to the bathroom, to different places. Eagle Block, you may be signing up for an activity. Smart Pass allows you to do that electronically through the Chromebooks. Basically, everything is becoming digital. What we used to carry around, 100 years ago, they don't carry around it.
Safety wise, I think it's great too. It's gonna keep a tally, it's gonna track who's where in the building, so technology.
Who's
or
passing
Safety wise, I think
in
that's.
class, yeah.
But yeah, they have to, instead of like, how you go on a sign out sheet and then you'd be given a paper pass.
just get up and go, hey, I gotta
Well,
go.
that's how that's what the school.
It helps with the special.
But
block.
that's
Now you
not
just-
great. I would be, my anxiety level would be like
I think
through
it's,
the roof.
for us, yeah, I think the younger generation is used to it. And I think they also use it to sign up, like at the middle school, they have Connect blocks. The kids can sign up for a variety of Connect activities through Smart Pass. So now the teacher knows they're coming. A teacher can say, I want to see Walter for, reinforcing math on the Connect period for Tuesday. And when Walt goes to sign up for something on Tuesday, it'll say, sorry, Mr. Willett wants to see you. And you have to go, see Mr. Willett. It's a way of getting an efficient methodology for utilization of things like passing through the hallways, but also special blocks like the Connect or the Eagle blocks. It helps make that very efficient.
For the most part, this was all done through paper, so it's really, nothing's changing in terms of
Yeah.
like, if you're at TIS, you used to sign on a sheet, you'd get a pass, or you'd get a key to go to the bathroom. At the middle school for Connect Block, you'd have to go to that teacher's classroom and sign up on a
So-
sheet, so you're just signing up electronically.
Just so I get a better understanding, what happens at the 5 minute and 12 second?
Electrical shock.
But I mean, what happens at the 5 minute, 12 second mark? I mean, I don't
They
understand
probably
what's
get
the
a
point of
dental
time.
monitor to,
Well, what happens is we have hall monitors
Yeah,
who have their iPads with them so they can see who's like over their time and they will like find you and search like where you are. And like if you also forget to end your pass, they will come to the classroom to make sure like if you got there or if you're just roaming around.
and how do you put this pass on and put it off? I don't mean to get into a
On
big
your-
question, I just don't know.
On your laptop.
So you even need less time than the 5 minutes, cause you gotta get back to your Chromebook to register yourself.
it
That
ends up being more
logic.
efficient than the old passes.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to carry a nasty path to the bathroom that everybody carried before.
Yeah, no, I just more like an honor system one. I just remember all this like.
That is true.
I'm not saying everybody was honorable in the
But I-
leaving and going, but
I
okay.
think it makes sense for, as a new system is out, you guys are the ones using it, and
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for you to provide feedback on the amount of minutes that you need while you do these certain tasks, so.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job representing your
Yeah,
peers
thank you
tonight,
for-
and just let us know if you need any more help, okay? Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the committee and liaison reports. Okay, so bear with me. Dana, policy was canceled today, right?
Yes, my apologies. I had a last minute work trip that took me a while.
Okay,
I'm still here. And we've rescheduled it to the next meeting.
okay, Deanna's not on, but Rini and Dana, you're FFC, right? Has there been a meeting, any update?
There was a meeting last week. I was out of town, so I didn't go to it. Dana might have gone to it.
Dana, I don't wanna put you. on the spot.
There was a meeting, well, myself, I was the only one who showed to the meeting last week, so unfortunately it wasn't able to happen. So,
That's happening.
that's gonna be rescheduled.
Okay, great, thank you. And we just had curriculum.
We did, we had a continued discussion about open choice. Just any existing questions from our meeting 2 weeks ago. And, we talked about, the curriculum aspect of it as well as other logistical things, and just got a better clarity of the open choice program.
Okay, and then we do not have any negotiations currently underway. Moving on to the chairperson's report, I do not have one for this evening, so we will on to the superintendent's report. Do you have anything, Dr. Willett?
So, no, actually, it's new business before we get there.
Okay, I just didn't know,
I'm just trying to
You like to
see if
discuss.
I would know.
All right, so moving on to new business. So L1, the SATSA officer.
All right. So SATSA is a mouthful. It's school security. Oh, by the way, guys, once your report is done, we know you have a lot of homework and a lot of things to do. So feel free to stick around, but if you need to go, yeah. All right, so whatever you need to do, and that's the rule change. The SATSA officer is a school security, attendance, truancy, school avoidance, and homelessness officer. And so we use SATSA officers, and right now we have one. And this individual is extremely useful to the school district because they provide support for homeless. They're also transport. Remember how we talked about the van? I might have somebody who's estranged from someone else or goes to a shelter and the kids are in a different town and so on. This would be the officer that does the transport for the family. This officer was used extensively last year and extensively this year for special transportations for students in a variety of situations, homelessness, but also sometimes if we have a student who would require $40,000 to $50,000 transportation for an outplacement or an expulsion or whatever, this is provided by our SATS officer and it saves us much more than what we spend on that. So this is just because of the conversations that have also been surfacing. One of the things that was brought up was security and maybe adding to it. And so this is the beginning of reaching out to you for what's called a WFPA, which is a within fiscal year position addition. If you wanted me to research and look at how we could add another SATSA officer to the district, I would do that. It just was because of the conversations that were happening that I asked at the BOEAP planning if we wanted to have a discussion about it, and the executive felt like it was worthy of having a discussion. Subsequent to that time, we actually did have a conversation about SROs today and state troopers. So there's a couple of things all happening at once. But a SATSA officer is extremely valuable to the district, is utilized extensively. And also this officer will do home visits. So if a social worker is going to a home for a variety of reasons, the SATSA officer will go with them. And it provides, it provides a useful, usually want to send people in pairs into whatever situation that might be going on. They go with them and provide the transport for the person there and back. So no one's using a personal car because there's a sensitivity to, noticing that that is someone's car, and, some situations people don't want that. So they do those ride-alongs. They also will investigate truancy for us. So if there's something going on and we need to send, the SATS officer to go check out a potential truant situation, they do that. So, they also sometimes will help us with residency, where if there's a question about residency, we'll send them to see if a drop off or pickup is actually happening where someone says it is. And that is another thing that is very helpful. So that's what the SATS officers do. And a lot of times what I look for in a SATS officer is a former police officer or security personnel. In this case, the gentleman doing it is a former police officer. He doesn't want to continue doing that part of it. Like, he doesn't want to continue his post training, so he doesn't carry a firearm. But he does have a uniform and he does have the rest of that's, things. Plus, he also has his cert to drive multiple, he can drive a mini vehicle for education. That's why he's able to transport multiple kids or family members. So that's what the SATS officers do. There's a general job description here linked for the board. You can see it's pretty much what I said. It's just, I won't read it word for word. Essentially, this does articulate all of the duties that we utilize the SATS officer.
Okay, great. Questions or discussion?
I'll maybe hear from the executive board and your determination to bring this forward at this time.
Okay, I'm going first right here.
apologize. I didn't see you over here. I apologize.
So I was not on this particular agenda, Paul. But I will say that as Dr. Willett brought up, we're having some other discussions as well. Personally, it hasn't sat right in with me, some of the decisions that we had to make, regarding the security, in the budget. And I know that every single one of us, cares very much about the security of our schools, and we were tasked with a lot of difficult decisions this year. As you know, we've seen things transpire nationally throughout, since the budget cycle. Again, personally, I wanted to see if there was a way that we could explore any possible additions to security and what that would look like. So I assume that's part of why this was brought up and discussed at agenda planning. And that is why I have asked to have a discussion with the town about SROs or troopers, whatnot. But Bill, I don't know if you were on the agenda planning and you could add.
I was, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of lengthy discussion. Dr. Willett heard our cry during budget season that we were all concerned about security. He came up with this and he asked to put it on for us to discuss. I mean, it was as simple as that.
no, it's okay.
You know,
Yeah, I
our
was-
CEO asked to put it on.
Yeah.
For a discussion, and that's what we agreed to. So, there's definitely some questions that will be asked in this discussion. But just to answer your question of why
Yeah, thank
the
you.
executive committee put it on there, that's the simple answer. Our CEO asked for it to go on there, and
Okay,
we said yes.
I'll reserve anything further for later time. Thank you.
I just want to clarify, do we already have one of these people and this would be a second one, or do we have one in person is leaving?
We
That
have,
wasn't
one.
quite
This would
clear.
be a second one, if you wanted to do a within fiscal year position addition, if you wanted to direct me to do that and find funding for it, that's what I would try to do. We have one. and it would
We
be-
have one, and that covers the whole district, not just one school.
Yeah, I mean, they're stationed in one school, a lot of time, but I do move them around the district as needed. So we meet every week, we look at the needs of the district, and then the individual is assigned a variety of things. A lot of times transport has a lot to do with it, of individuals in particular, transport needs. But I might, for instance, if something happened the night previous that makes people a little nervous in general about adolescents that are aged 14 and higher, I would direct the SATS officer to go to the high school for that day. And they would be a presence at the high school, presence when the kids are coming in, so on. It would be a uniform.
But that portion of it is probably maybe a little bit less, that security part of it is less than some of these other tasks that they're transport and some of these other things that they're doing.
Yeah, it's probably 40 or 30, and 30, it's a portion of it. The security portion of it, the reason they're at Birch Grove is, most of they're at Birch Grove a lot is because the littler kids, sometimes there can be all kinds of reasons why there may need to be sort of a person there that has a uniform on, and it can have to do with families and, things that are going on in families. If there's a DCF situation and we have to hold a child in the school and not send them home that day, good to have a security person around just in case somebody's upset about that. So these are the things that happen. Sometimes those types of things tend to happen in the younger grades a little bit more than the older grades, so they spend more time down there. But the individual works across district as needed. It's a very good, method of covering a lot of bases. We also, in the past, that's how SROs largely worked. I would meet with the SROs weekly. We had a schedule for them. The admin could jump in and see where they were at all times. If there was a need to have them in a particular place, we would move them over to that place for a span of time. It was a very high level of coordination, and we do the same things with the SATS officers. But to your point, they're split in a number of directions. So they do serve a security role, but that security role extends to something too, like a transport as well sometimes. Because you need to have a home visit. We need to have someone there to make sure that goes okay. But it's been a very useful officer. As you can see, there's a lot of things that that individual does for a district, and we've utilized them and trained them and, you know, benefited from their training. We would be looking for the same thing in a second individual. And then we maybe would have that individual stationed, you know, 612 a lot, not just going there sometimes, but maybe stationed there too.
Okay, thank you, Seth. Katie?
I'm so sorry. Hopefully you didn't just say this because my daughter just came and interrupted me. But I just was gonna say it goes kind of the other way too with these officers, doesn't it? Where they're sort of removing barriers for people who are struggling to get to school with like attendance issues. And they're
Yeah.
also they're sort of noticing ahead of time. And then from like the behavioral health standpoint, like we for NatJog schools, don't they also help with sort of kids who've had extended absences? Helping them sort of reacclimate and keeping an eye on how that's going for them, like
Yeah,
academic
they are.
also feeling welcomed.
They are a core member of our tier 3 truancy and attendance discussions. There's tiers 1 and 2. Those are kids that are having some challenges. Tier 3 is the kids and families having the most severe challenges. And this individual, these positions are part of those committee meetings.
Right. I think it's a really good idea because it's got the sort of prevention response aspect to it. So
And it's a kind of community officer because they get to know the families, the people they're engaged with in a meaningful and positive way. But they, you know, they're there in case you need to have somebody there for other reasons.
Thank you. You good, Katie, for now?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay, Jaden?
Sure, thank you. So we know from prior discussions that, you know, in a typical school district has, you know, a 250 to 1 student to social worker sort of ratio, you know, at least the schools that, you know, fund them at least. How many cases does a position like this take on right now? To sort of Katie's point of, you know, that outreach aspect of it, how much is this singular person responsible for right now? Number one. And number two, is it recommended that whatever ratio that person's in right now needs to be lowered in order to be fully effective? That's my question, because if that's the case, number one, I'm always going to jump at any opportunity to add security into the buildings, preventative and reactive. And so that's why, Katie, I love the point you just made. That's number one. Number two, again, in order to be fully effective and do the job properly, doing the job incomplete is I appreciate the job being done, but are we doing everything we can for the child and the family? So that's my question is how much of a caseload is this person taking on right now? And I'll stop. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
They do not, they're not a social worker themselves, so.
Correct. I'm asking the difference, right? So that's from prior discussions. We know sort of a social worker sort of in that realm of 250 to 1, right? Whereas this position, I know nothing about it. Pretend I know nothing about it. I'm coming in fresh. You know, this position does a lot of jobs sort of in one, as the description says. And so what is recommended for this person to be fully effective? Is it a 200 student max capacity load that's recommended? Meanwhile, this person's taking care of 600 different situations. That's more so what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'd like to have one school.
That's probably Jaden needs to be up to.
There we go.
You guys are on plus BOE cam, which is causing all that.
Yeah, BOE cam's okay. We're good.
I think we got it. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. I would like to see one per school. There, you know, some schools have, say, a security person that isn't a police officer that walks around, but those individuals, in my opinion, they're not being maximized. You know, you're not maximizing what one can do with that. The SATS officer actually takes the concept of someone who walks around for security and engages that individual in the things that actually meaningfully need the presence of someone that provides that kind of support. like home visits, like truancy, like residency, like transport of homeless and, difficult estrangement situations. These are also security situations. Utilizing them in this way is actually maximizing the benefit of such an officer and making, getting full use and actually getting a much better return on investment for the position itself. I'd like to have one per school regardless of whether we have SROs or not, because the SROs won't be able to do some of the things the SATS officers can do. So it'd be good to have a combination of them. And SATSs may do things that are related to homelessness and transports and things like that, when the SROs are doing other things like processing I don't mean to use this as an example, but let's just say there's some kind of drug situation they would be engaged in taking care of that from a police perspective. The SATS officer will be going to a home to visit with a family, with a social worker, try to resolve the truancy issue. So there's no case management, just like SROs wouldn't have case management. It's more providing, supports, security supports, transport supports, homelessness supports, residency support.
So in those capacities, not discussing, sorry, in those capacities, not discussing the security aspect of it, sort of the more SRO sort of aspect of the role, is there enough of this person right now for our district to operate at full capacity for the exact purposes that this role exists?
I would like to see, we only have what we have, and these weren't in the budget, which is why an additional one wasn't. But we could start with having one of them that's K-5 and one of them that's 6-12. That would be a very large benefit. Right now, we have one that is across the district. So the next iteration up would be a K-5 and a 6-12 assignment. And then from there, if we had enough for one for each school, that would be even better. But this isn't to be a replacement for an SRO. It's a different kind of position altogether. So you'll notice some districts have a combination. That's what this would be. Ideally, we would have like an SRO or SROs, and they would work in conjunction with the security people. The SROs have much broader capabilities with respect to law enforcement, social, community policing. So, these individuals would work with them. So let's say if we got one more, it would allow me to have a maybe K-5, pre-K-5 assignment and a 6-12 assignment. And then let's say we were able to get the successful SRO situation with the town. Now we'd have an SRO working in conjunction with our SATSA people, and it would be security and police working together, which is what you see in schools.
So do you think we'd have a higher success rate at I don't know what the phrase is to use here, so excuse me, but beating that truancy rate? Do you think we'd have a higher success rate of getting children back in school, getting them mentally capable to handle a school day back in our district with an additional SATSA officer?
Well, definitely, because it increases our capacity to do effective, what's called tier 3 support.
Okay.
A vernacular that is just, I know sometimes it's gobbledygook for people, but tier 3 is the most intensive need. And about, tier 1 is usually 80% of the population needs what's called tier 1 supports. About 15% need what's considered tier 2 supports, and about 5% in a district need. And it's not strictly this, but this is the the general amount. About 5% of a population in school systems need intensive tier 3 support. And this position definitely assists with the effectiveness of that, because otherwise you really can't do the home visits. And in situations of estrangement, families are left in a much more vulnerable situation, so those kids won't come to school. If there's I'm just going to use an example, like if a mom, is fleeing an abusive husband or any of those situations and bringing the children with them, if there is no officer to do transport, the mom may flee to another place, is considered homeless, but there's not an easy way for that mom's kids to get to school. but she doesn't want her location made publicly null, you know, that she doesn't want it shared where she is outside of, you know, a secure group of people. The SATS officers allow for that parent to feel that there is a person in a secure situation for their children to get to school without someone else learning where they are right now. You know, and I think that's the kind of thing that, you know, a SATS officer like this really helps with. These people, these individuals, this, for instance, the one we have right now is a police officer who has retired, has that training, you know, has the transport certifications, is used to dealing with complex and difficult situations. And generally people feel safe in that situation. And then those kids will come to school, whereas sometimes a parent might say, no way I'm sending my kid to school. You know, I don't feel safe and I don't feel they're safe. This allows for less truancy because those kids feel safe coming to school. You know, and that's an example of how these kinds of people can, these kind of positions can help. Also, when they go to a home, they allow for, you know, the opportunity to have our staff go, because right now you can't actually really have a staff member in their own car go, or, you know, things like that. It has to be school personnel. We have to make it possible for that transport, that thing to happen. You can't just say, hey, go get in your own car, go visit a house, you know, go do this. It has to be that the school has some mechanism for supporting that if we're asking our staff to do that. The SATS officers allow for that. So it's just a very versatile deployment of resources. This is an individual who's been here for a while. And this position is a security position, not an SRO. So it's just something that came up. Well, point to make here is this did come up prior to our conversations about the SRO. The BOE AP planning predated the most recent conversations with the town about SROs. So this came up prior to that.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. And the truth is, you know, I can't be apologetic for, you know, asking questions to establish more mental and physical security for students, and not only that, but to get them back to school. I mean, never mind, even if it's one, we've got an obligation to students, and that goes back to even what I said at our last meeting is we've got an obligation to children. So, you know, without getting to school, there's a very it's hard. Especially, you know, I work in a district where almost every second it seems that one of these situations pops up. But you know, in Tolland too, without getting to school, you're not getting a lot of that everyday sort of, you know, skill building to defend yourself against the world. In a sense, you know, you're not learning how to handle a lot of these situations that they might be experiencing at home and don't know how to sort of operate through, right? Social skills that they might not be picking up because of you know, basic everyday interaction. So I just, you know, whenever positions like this come up, and I'm sorry for rambling here, but whenever positions like this come up, you know, it is my strong opinion. We have got to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, why should we believe in this, or why should we not? And I got to tell you, I will jump at any opportunity, especially for the value that this position offers, you know, both on the money side and what it offers, what the position does. I'm going to jump at an opportunity to help these children out. And that includes, by the way, our two new student reps who, by the way, you did an awesome job with those statements and questions. So I'll get that in there as well. So thank you for answering those. I know I rambled a little bit, but this is we've got an opportunity here. I'm all in favor.
Just another added piece, these years ago, when a student was in a situation of truancy, it's more than you want to hear right now about how it gets calculated, but once you reach a certain threshold, according to the state of Connecticut, you're considered truant. And if you want to know more about that, we can go into that rabbit hole right about, but it's like a formula, okay? So once they hit that, the state of Connecticut used to refer a student and a family to court, and there would be a probation officer assigned potentially to the family. that no longer happens. The state of Connecticut pulled back on funding that and it disappeared. So now what happens is the state of Connecticut instead says, you must figure out how to do this, to have someone that, you know, provides some kind of support for attendance and truancy. It's the obligation of the school district to, you know, assign your social workers, your truancy officers, that type of thing. So this position also functions to comply with the state's requirement that we have some tier 3 service, you know, that addresses truancy, chronic absenteeism, things like that, which this position doubles to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You done, Jaden?
Yeah, thank you.
I think every one of us expressed the importance of security during budget season for our students. It does lead me to ask, though, the funding source that this is coming from, and if the funds are there, we cut teachers, we cut secretaries, we cut custodians, we make nurses, numerous program and software cuts. We raise sports and activities fees. Where's the money coming from that we all of a sudden have this now?
Well, we don't all of a sudden have it. It would be you directing me to try to find it. You know, this came on the radar for conversation because security in general was coming up. How do we address it? You know, we can address it through sets of officers. You know, do you want me to find a way? And if that's the case, then you're kind of giving me the directive to do that by any means necessary, more or less. So I have to come back to you when we bring this up as a WFPA. I might have to, you know, I have some grants that I'm looking at right now. It's grant season, so there's about 4 or 5 I have to write or complete. If there's some allocation maybe that I can find in there. The point is, it just kind of came on the conversation radar about now because of the world. And it isn't brought up to the board with a funding mechanism yet. It's, do you want me to do anything? Do you want to direct me to make it happen, hell or high water? In which case, I got to do whatever I'd have to do that. The WFPA form that I usually complete for this, it's, you know, it looks like this, but it has more, you know, typically it would have a funding source or it would be connected to special ed. So WFPAs that are special education in nature, for instance, if a child needed a feeding tube and only a nurse could do the feeding tube, it's a WFPA and we don't really have a choice. We have to do it. And that's like a special ed kind of expenditure that happens. Sometimes you've had me come to you with WFPAs that have to happen for an IEP or whatever. This is a discretionary one, meaning I might come to you saying I had to do this hire because the child needed a feeding tube. That would be something we're not asking for a vote on because we can't say no to a feeding tube. But when it's like this, I'm coming to you asking you if you want me to do this. The board would have to say, yes, we approved this WFPA, go make it happen, you know, and I would have to try to find a way. But it would mean something happens to make that happen. We'd have to find a funding source for it. And, you know, this would be maybe your first read on this. If you had any interest in it, then I'll do all of the legwork to see what I can do for a funding source. If you had no interest in it, then there's no reason for me to use that time that way.
So you're saying that you're asking us to try and approve you to find a funding source, but the potential motion here says give you permission to hire.
Right.
Those are two different things.
This is your first read.
Okay.
I mean, this wouldn't, I didn't come to this meeting expecting you to just do that.
Gotcha.
It's, the conversation is, what is it? Why, you know, what's the WFPA? And, you know, do you want me to explore this further or not? Do you want me to see if I can find a funding source for it or not? If we brought it up here and maybe the conversation was, maybe the meetings had a lot of traction on SRO, someone might say, you know, we don't really need this right now, we're gonna possibly get some other thing. Maybe if that had transpired, some of you would say, not now. You know, don't pursue this right now. But you know, if that's not the case, maybe you would be asking me to pursue it right now, but there's no point in me trying to find it if you're not interested in doing it. And it is a discretionary one. It's not one that I can just say we're doing, right? The nursing feeding tube thing, I can say we're doing because there's no way we cannot. This one is discretionary. It's up to the board. So you have to tell me whether you want me to pursue it or not. And I can't start pursuing it if you actually want me to start looking at it.
So then let me ask you this hypothetical. Funding source, obviously priority would be to find a grant for it to fund it for this year. I'm assuming, just based on how the budget cycle went, there's not money in operating to fund it. That it would have to be from a grant to fund it. Or are you saying that there's things that you could move around in our existing operating outside of finding a grant to provide, you know, it says $30,000 to $40,000, but it's a full-time position, so it's probably $60,000 to $70,000 with benefits and everything.
It would probably be more like that. That's maybe total cost there. That's more of a total cost.
The 30 to 40?
Yeah, I mean, but you're looking at it's not loading right now because I need it to load, but that I can't remember where on that sheet there that's prorated for this year. And then
Yeah, and then the ongoing is 30 to 48, so I'm assuming.
So and that is your full incurrence.
A full-time position is $48,000 with
Yep, just like-
benefits and everything.
Just like your SRO is 77, not 150, because you know, you're paying a certain rate because there's a demand, there's a certain kind of person that's gonna be taking that. You know, retiree, there are no certifications, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be someone who wants a gig of this kind and doesn't want certain other things. So it fits for that price range.
So assuming we say, yes, look for a funding source. If you can't find a grant, then this doesn't fly.
Right, you're
That's
basically
basically what we're
telling,
saying.
Can I add to this just?
Yeah,
But also with the grant, I would assume that if he finds a grant for something else that we've also budgeted,
sure.
then
That might
possibly
could be
we have
moved over.
a.
Sure.
you're just, you know, there's no point in running the bases if you have no interest in this at all. But if you did, then I would be, you know, going through the process of trying to figure out how it might be.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't just do that if I didn't have your direction to do that, because there's about 100 other things too. Like, you know, we need an MLL person. There's 25 to 28 students that do not speak English as their first language here, and we could definitely use more support there too. There's about 10 WFPAs I can bring you. This just came up on the radar because there's a recent conversation about security. And then brought it to BOEAP, there was a feeling to put it on the agenda, and that's why we're here with this.
So then let me ask you this question. Why isn't this saying, I want to find 3 more? Let me find a funding source for 3 more, and then once I find that, I'll bring it back to you for hire.
Well, because it seemed like the paradigm of K5 and 612 was a reasonable reach right now. You
Okay.
could direct me to try to find 3 more, but you're looking at money that we definitely
Well,
don't have.
$150,000.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have this either. It would be
Right.
just, you know, if I'm using certain grants, and let's say, and I'm not saying this is possible because I just don't know yet.
Mhm.
But when I go through it, and I need to do it now's the time of year where a lot of my time gets dedicated to doing some of our grants, entitlement grants, other grants. If it just so happens that this year X dollars become available, like we use the Open Choice ASSG grant for special education position. If some money is available in those, instead of using it for X, the board has directed me to find, you know, money for Y.
Mhm.
And now's the time because this is where those grants get finalized, a lot of them. So if something were to come available and I was directed to do this, then I would try to make that the case, you know, but it's just timing. I mean,
Is-
it became something I think that you guys wanted to talk about, and I'm ready. I mean, this is here,
Yeah.
and if we had all the money that we, if we had everything we wanted, we'd have these and SROs and all of it. You know,
Is this person an existing para? Or
No.
is this person employed by us?
he is, yeah, well, after the SATSA. This person? Hey, do you mean the person that we?
The person that you have in mind for
well,
moving to this position, he's already an employee for us.
we would have to post this
Okay,
and then see who applied,
okay.
but I do have some people in mind.
So the people that you have in mind are their existing employees that would move to this. What positions might that leave open
Well, I don't.
that now we
I
have
can't
issues
give
with?
reference to certain.
Sure.
people. I would have to do the full process, but anyone I would have in mind would have to have had the adequate, appropriate training and background.
But the reality is if one of those people that are currently employed are most qualified for this position and you feel that they're the best for this position, it's a trickle down effect. Now we've got
It
to,
would open up whatever.
it would
they
open
were
up whatever they left. And I guess the question I have is that position gonna be a difficult find for us?
I mean, I guess, no, I mean, not any more difficult than any other position of its class.
Okay,
So I'm not so worried about that I would not do this because of.
gotcha. Okay. I think we're good.
Dana hasn't gone yet.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, Bill.
Dana?
Um. First of all, I appreciate the conversation being brought up. Jaden, you had a lot of excellent points, and Bill, honestly, we have to talk about the budgetary aspect, so I appreciate that. I know that we all really want security, which is great, especially in the times we find ourselves. But it's more of figuring out the best way to relate, like what the social worker does in discussion with the security aspect as well. We talk a lot about security after the fact, but we need to talk about how we support the students within the school to give them the tools to have that social, emotional level, so that they can have that support in the schools. If the person isn't maximizing their role, we're not going to get really good value. We need to find that balance between security and support to the respective students. I definitely think this is something that we need to continue to have a conversation and move this forward. I think it's important. I think we all have different reasons for it. I think it could be a win-win if we maximize the role in its respective capacity.
Great. Thanks, Dana. I'm just gonna add something in the first round, and I'll go with the second round, if that's okay. So, I think we all are, but I'm very conservative, right, about how much we talk about safety publicly, right? We're all very much want to make sure that we keep our students as safe as possible. I will say that, again, personally, if I would like to have an SRO and a SATS at every school, or a trooper, whatever that would be. Obviously, as, Bill just asked the question and well said, this being a reasonable reach, it's adding, it's at least an addition. As Bill pointed out, we had to make some really tough decisions. I think when we did budget cuts this year and last year, and probably the year before, we spanned so much, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of areas that weren't touched. So it's not as if we just took from one thing to give another. We had to make some hard decisions, and we had to make some hard compromises, and we touched a lot of our departments and our students, clearly, as they brought to us tonight with the clubs. So certainly, if I had it my way, we'd be having discussions about lots of ads, right? I think all of us would. I think all of us prioritize different things as well. The reality is they're all important. We didn't want to see any of these positions go. I do think, like Dr. Willett said, I do think our community is talking a lot about safety and our schools a lot lately as well. I don't think it's unreasonable that this would be a priority for us, given where we are, given the numbers we are at with everything else as well, in comparison. So I just don't want it, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's not that we wouldn't want to, clubs back, bring a nurse back, bring a teacher back. It's not that we wouldn't want to do these things. It's that, again, we're in tough situations and we have to figure out what we can do to best serve our students. I personally believe that this is an opportunity that we should try to take. I feel the same way, when it comes to discussing, having the larger SRO discussion with the town. Again, the question came up and probably will continue to come up, why now? Well, why did you cut it? Well, again, I think we can all say, we had failed referendums. We had that last time too. Every time we had to make harder and harder decisions. To make us to say that would say that anyone, who voted for a budget that didn't keep us level services doesn't care about education. Well, that's not true either, right? Everyone in our roles and the town council's roles had to make difficult decisions with what we have to work with. So I think that, I just think it's our job to, constantly look for anything that we can possibly do that improves our district in one way. This is an avenue, it's an opportunity. And, I do feel, I would move it to action tonight. Obviously, we can't do that because we don't have a funding source, but I just think that when it comes to security, this is something, no matter what it is, whether it's a SATSA, whether it's an SRO, whether it's a trooper, whether it's all of those things, I think that we should aim to do this as soon as possible.
But one thing to keep in mind too, just as we reflect on prior budget seasons and your budget season. The prior structure for SROs in Tolland was a part-time structure. You could not hire a full-time person. Therefore, people that were in there, understandably, we had great relationships with, but eventually they would be here for a while and then say, oh, there's a gig over here where I can do 40 hours a week and off they would go. It's not till recently that we were able to thankfully look at getting a full-time person, which is a new thing and fantastic. But the reason why the budget season fell the way it did is those positions were unfilled. There was no one in them. And at the time, originally at conception, they were part-time structures, not full-time structures, and no one was in them. So the board was in that very terrible position of saying, should we make sure that these kids get the reading support so that they don't fail to get it by second grade and have it affect the rest of their life? Or there's these two positions with no one in them and no one probably that will apply for them at a part-time level. And you ended up being in a Sophie's choice situation, but there was no one there. Had there been a position or a person in the position, and certainly had there be a person in a position that was full-time, I don't think the board would have ever cut that. The board didn't cut a person here. It just took the money and used it for reading because there was no one in those jobs. That's the situation you were in. So I don't want it to look like you cut something that was there. There wasn't the person there. In the future, we are working to try to figure out how to, in Tolland, have a structure that allows for you to have SROs that will be long-term positions here. And even maybe constables for your town, I don't know. But the kind of conversations that are going on right now are all about how to make that work. And there's a lot of looking at other towns. What are the other towns doing? How is their structure set up? What are they paying for? Who are these individuals? What positions do they hold? That's all getting worked out, but that's not something you can do. In Connecticut, a municipal board of education cannot hire a SRO by itself or a police officer by itself. The state school, the board of a state school can, but like a tech school, because they are actually state and state can hire state troopers and so on. But a board of ed cannot hire a trooper by itself. So in this town, you have resident troopers and not a municipal police force. I explored all of those options. Everything that you do, you have to do through that conduit with respect to that. So we are working with the town and there's really great people on the town side all doing their best. And I think we're going to come away with something positive, but that's currently being, pursued there.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm all on board for additional security, as I think most of us are, and I appreciate all the comments by everyone tonight. Everyone had a lot of good and decent points regarding potentially adding this, or at least this discussion regarding this, SATGIS officer. My concern, just in the monetary aspect is if we get the grant for, you know, this position for this year, I feel like we've had some positions to where we've gotten a grant, yeah, they stay, and then all of a sudden we have this burden. And then all of a sudden we gotta let a nurse go, or we gotta let another teacher go, or we gotta lose a computer program, because all of a sudden we gotta fund this employee for 50,000+ for next year. This budget process was very difficult, as many of us have said, and I just hate to be putting ourselves to an additional $50,000 already assigned going into next year. And like Bill said, we already lost someone else, so maybe the cost is even higher if we have to hire someone else to pay for this other position that needs to be potentially filled on somebody who we have in mind, possibly from the district. I want to make that reservation very clear, because I think we've cut so many things. I hate to spend the money on this and then we're cutting something else that the students or somebody needs. I'm not saying that this isn't something that we need in the district, but it's like, where are we pulling from to offset this? Is my concern. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm just really actually kind of tagging on to what Brian is saying, and I guess my question in my mind is, I think this would be great. I do. But we talked about nurses, teachers, you just mentioned MLLs, that there's a laundry list of needs at the schools that need to be filled. So how are we prioritizing, and why has this risen to the top? Understandably, because you're talking about school security, I get that, but has the board as a group, and with Dr. Willett's guidance, decided that if we can get grant money, this is the top thing that we need to have? I guess that's what I'm wondering is, have we looked at all of the things that were cut and all of the needs and said, this, which is kind of a new position in a way, it's not new, but it is kind of new, is more important than all of the things that we've left behind in last year or whatever. That's the only point, and it's kind of, I think that's sort of what Brian is saying.
Yeah.
But that's all. I'm not against it in any way, shape, or form. We've all talked about security. We've all lamented about the lost things, and that's, I'm all like, now we're gonna add something new, but how about all these other things that we didn't want to let go of last year? Or, actually just only months ago.
Yes.
So, and that's it.
So if I could answer that from my perspective, just because I've been a part of some of these discussions, in full transparency, I did not realize that this was going to be an extensive conversation about this tonight. I really didn't. I briefly spoke to Bill before the meeting, I would have, all of this stuff is, again, it's new, right? In terms of the SRO piece. This was really something that came from Dr. Willett, but again, I think the stats a piece, but I think that, again, it is because of the overall questions of security, and I have been someone asking him about security, so I take responsibility in that. As I said, when I spoke, I think that, again, to the points that both you and Brian are making, Rini, it's not that, it's not that this, and again, I'm being careful, I'm choosing my words carefully because I believe that we need to talk about security in our schools conservatively. It's not that I'm valuing one position necessarily over the other. When we look at the cuts that we made, when we look at the staffing levels in these various departments, I believe this is a department that we need to add on to. That's why it would be a priority for me. That's why I think it should be a priority for the board, but it doesn't negate that, I think that there should be, more nurses that, in fact, I'm worried about that. You guys know how I feel about mental health, and as Katie pointed out, I've been very vocal about how I feel that leads into the prevention and is part of our security overall conversation as well. So I'm not negating those things, but again, for me personally, the reality is that when we look at the staffing in these departments, I feel that this is the department that needs a priority at this time.
Also, to the genesis of it is, I can't hire a police officer myself. So I can't recommend to you a police officer that I can execute from the beginning to the end myself. So if there's like security concerns, and people are looking at what's happening in the world and they say, aren't you gonna do anything? Well, I can say, this is what I can do right now. I'd have to have the board's backing to do it. I can execute this for the district. I cannot hire a police officer myself. So if there's no police officer available to us and there's no funding made available to us and I can't hire a state police officer for us, if somebody says, what are you gonna do right now? I'm gonna come to the board and say, this is a position we could hire, right? Then it's up to you to tell me whether you want me to do it or not. Where is it coming from? There, right? But you also have lots of other priorities to decide. Now, having said that, this does just so happen to coincide with a conversation that, we've engaged in with the town. And I don't know what will happen from that, but that was not part of the radar when this came on the agenda. That has come on the radar recently. So we're in this kind of space, where I am not sure what the board would like me to do, but, it may be that if we had some extremely good luck, in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm meeting with Brian Foley. We're meeting with, Sergeant Nyhagen. We're gonna see what's possible on the town side. And it may be that nothing is possible on the town side. It may be that something is possible. And if there is something possible on the town side, maybe some allocation of a trooper could be made, but I can't do that myself. You know what I mean? It's not under my authority. This I can do. So it's up to you whether you want me to pursue this, to hold on it, to come back for a second read, to see if we can find, or do you want me to hold and just wait to see what happens with the rest of the process with the state troop? This all happens sort of in the same timeline, so.
Yeah, and I'll just say again, and I'm not saying this as acting chair or vice chair, I'm saying this is just board member Jen Galashan. I do believe that there's an urgency here. I do personally feel that way. And I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't pursue these things. And like Dr. Love said, and like I just said, I didn't realize this was going to be this discussion about the SATS officer tonight, but it's fine. I'm happy to be transparent about the conversations we're having. It is just brand new. And we have absolutely no, idea if any of those conversations will work out with the town. And even if we do, we are able to explore an option there, that's going to take some time. I think that we need more security in our schools, and I think that we need it now. So, I'm just hoping that you will consider that. And again, I'm not making that from a position of leadership. I'm just making that as a board member.
It's a motion if you want.
Any other discussion first?
I do have a quick question.
Okay.
Because I'm now confused about the motion that's there on the document here. We're not necessarily directing the superintendent to hire that position, but to seek the funding to hire that position with this motion? Or is that not accurate?
Well, we would first have to motion to move something to board action.
Well, yeah, I mean, in this case, if you're anecdotally saying you want me to, look at if I can find funding, I don't think you have to make a motion to direct me.
Sure.
You can just say the board has expressed general interest in this and I will then go see what I can figure out, right? If I'm going to hire someone in this case, this is not, like I said, the nursing, or whatever, this would be discretionary. That's what I would need the motion on, because I wouldn't just go off and do it. If it's a job, if it's a discretion.
So I guess.
Yeah, I forgot we were not in board action, so dumb question. I rescind it.
Okay,
But
so I guess I would just express it this way then. I would like to ask the superintendent to pursue this further. Is there
What further?
to pursue
Hiring
looking
or-
for funding sources that would be able to go towards this particular position? Is there anyone who would want to disagree with that, or would like a motion to be more specific on that?
Well, we don't need to make a motion to instruct him to do that, but I would add to that comment saying look for multi-year funding sources, which I know you would do anyway, whether it's a 3-year grant or a 2-year grant or a 5-year grant. You know, look for something like that so that, you know, we could fund it for multiple years without us having to figure out in a couple months where we're gonna fit it in.
Yeah, and that's what I would come back to with is this is what's available. There may be nothing
Right.
available for this.
Right.
There may be only something available for this year for
Right.
this, in which case you'd have to pick it back up in budget season and add it. Or to be in perpetuity. Or maybe by some miracle, there'll be some thing that just appears and here it is, and now we can have it for 5 years. That has probably got a very tiny chance of happening because there's nothing out there right now like
Just
this.
saying there's a chance.
But yeah, hey, the lottery happens, right? Somebody just won. One point of order, I know we have an old business item we added, but we do have Pete Stava here tonight for capital. If we could possibly just jump to M1 next and then back to M1. That would just be helpful because I know thank you for being here tonight.
Doesn't matter too much. I mean, I don't want to screw up your plans.
Yeah, well, you're not, just as a courtesy, it depends on,
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Do we need your motion to do that?
I think we can at least informally bounce.
Yeah.
Just
I
bounce.
was like, I'm gonna suggest that myself.
Okay, so,
So
but in terms of
basically,
this
if you feel like you've
conversation,
reached a
no
point of,
strong rejection to allowing him to,
To
Explore.
explore a funding source.
I'll do that.
I don't think anyone's in disagreement with that.
Every funding source you can find, usually that's,
Right.
okay, I don't see anybody's hands up either, so. Please do so, Dad.
Right. It's good.
And thank you, everybody, for that conversation. Okay, so let's jump then to,
So this is your second read of the capital budget, request that the board be making. For the capital budget that extends from, what is it, 2026 to 2031. And these are the items with their priority levels. These links bring you to a extrapolation of exactly as Pete is, or Mr. Stava has always, I always call him Dr. Stava. He's the one that is Doctor, Dr. S. He provides a lot of great detail, as you've noticed in the past, narrative, pictures, the cost of it. So this table has the requests, the items we'd be adding to the capital budget request from the board to the town for the 2026-2031 iteration. And if you want to see everything that existed from our past requests, this table has everything in it. There's a lot of them linked. And if you want to see what we made for past requests in perpetuity for a long time, you can go to the superintendent's page. And it has a capital link that has everything going back for years. So there's a couple of places you can grab information on this if you're in the public and you'd like to see it. We certainly have the 5-year plan or the capital plans going back for many, many, many years and all the supporting information that went with it at that time. So you can find virtually anything here going back many, many years. And again, all this is really from the hard work of Stava here, providing the backup and everything every year that we need to fulfill the requests. So moving it forward to the town. So this is your second read. Mr. Stava is here tonight if you have direct questions about any of the projects, and I'll stop there.
Question?
Rebecca.
Fiscal year 27 talks about the man trap at the middle school. Is that, in a perfect world, the plan goes as we want, would that be installed summer of 26?
Yes,
Okay,
right now it's a little bit beyond the design phase. We're actually getting some pricing workups based upon the design that is there. Of all the projects that I've listed there, of all the ones, I am most concerned about where the pricing is gonna fall on that one, of all of them. Yeah, I'm just being honest. There's a lot of little features to that, some of which I'm gonna have to project manage myself when we integrate access control and other things like that. But the plan is, Bill, right now is to have that completed for the start of school for fiscal year 27, ended in August of 26.
in the notes field to the right of that item, even though I know there's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
You'll see notes that will talk about some of the things. In this case, potentially, that one says security grant not received TMS will be completed this summer of 2026, fiscal year 27.
I wanna add to it, I did try to pursue a COPS grant. Unfortunately, they don't cover construction costs. Which is primarily what this is. We're building a foundation, we have to do a storefront, we have to do a roof over a room. That's all construction. So it wasn't worth it at that time.
When you say you're concerned about the price, are you thinking it potentially is 50% more, 100% more?
No, I think we can, 20 to 25% max, more on that. Our numbers aren't too far off. You just saw a pretty large rise in steel this past week, which is disconcerting. There's some other savings that we may see here. I may pick up 7-8 grand on the panic button project that we can switch over and push towards that. So I'm always trying to juggle a little bit too, because you do come under on some jobs as well.
That's my question.
Okay, anybody else?
One of the projects you may have had a question on was, we're revisiting the middle school patio. Unfortunately, our number was done in 2018. 19 year and pushed out the full 5 years at that time. And then we also modify the scope of work to actually include a total rip out of the staircase with new railings, which weren't fully part of the old number, as well as trying to do concrete pads underneath the picnic tables that are now underneath the tent, which has kind of become a permanent fixture at the front of the school. So in adding those features, it added to the cost, as well as just general wage inflation, cost inflation, that has occurred since 2019 and now, because that project was pushed off at the end of that time frame. So we already have 67,000 to play with, but you are in essence saying we need that additional money to make up the gap based upon the scope of that project and the current cost of the job.
Anybody?
Nice.
Hmm?
So this would require action tonight. What I'd be asking respectfully for is a motion to approve the capital projects requested in the September 24th BOE meeting for the 2026-2031 capital plan, and authorize the superintendent to submit these on behalf of the board to the town manager and town council accordingly. And once you do that, then I can go through the process of submitting them to the town in the manner that they've requested.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to move it to board action.
Motion to move the capital project request to board action.
Yeah, and that would be under item what and 3. So that's action 3. All right. Yeah, board action and 3.
Make it
Need a second.
complicated for me to.
Second.
Any discussion? No, okay.
Actually, guys, this one's already
Are we
in action. I'm sorry. So you don't even need to move it to board action.
Sorry.
I thought I was losing it. Okay.
That's why it's here. Yeah.
Okay,
All
can
right.
we
I will
retract that motion?
my motion. And I will motion to approve the capital projects requested in the 9/24/25 Board of Ed meeting for the 2031 capital plan, and authorize the superintendent to submit these on behalf of the board to the town manager and town council accordingly.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Rini. Hi. Brian,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Jaden,
Aye.
Katie,
Hi.
and I'm an aye. So that motion passes. Now I'll-
Okay, so thank you.
Right.
Just,
No further questions?
No.
You guys are good?
Sorry, that was so short. We should have done it an hour ago.
I'm good on that, very guys.
Yeah.
Rest of the night.
Thank you.
And to these students here, you guys did an awesome job too. And welcome. Aboard.
To the fun. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna jump back,
back to your discussion, M1.
which is the open choice discussion. Okay, so let's jump back. Dr. Willett, are you prepared to lead a discussion on that?
Sure. I mean,
You add?
I always have.
He's never at a loss for words.
So, I mean, the open
Open
choice
choice
program.
addition to the agenda that Bill made?
Yeah, it was an addition you guys have. So, I mean, the open choice program is a fantastic program for the Tolland Public Schools. Allows for students that are in the Hartford Open Choice Program to attend Tolland Public Schools, and it's been fantastic. There's many benefits to having community, cross community attendance at a school, and we talked about that last board meeting. It was talked about curriculum today as well. And, from the last 5 years, there's been about 500,000 such dollars that have come in from open choice for the Tolland Public Schools. So it's a very beneficial program for the standpoint of education for all children. And it also has the benefit of resources that benefit the Tolland Public Schools. So if you wanted to expand the number of seats, right now, typically it's 5 seats in kindergarten every year. You could ask a direct that it be now 5 for K, 5 for 1, and 5 for 2, and have 15 open seats here versus 5 seats here. So it's just an extension of the conversation that we had already on the matter, and whether you want to direct me to do something different. Now, this would have to be for next year, because the seat situation is already done, but it would give me a year to plan for that.
Okay,
I'll start if you want.
Sure.
Since I made the motion. Yeah, so I think the biggest question that came about from 2 weeks ago's discussion was, do you feel that, number one, our staff is doing well with the addition of the open choice kids right now? Do you feel that expanding into all of Birch Grove, adding 5 seats per grade, that our staff could be ready for the start of next school season next school year to do that, knowing that you would have to provide some training leading up to that this year, but would give you plenty of time to ramp that up? Do you feel that we could successfully implement that and be prepared for students from Hartford?
Opening up the grade 1 and grade 2 to 5 seats.
Yeah, 1 and 2, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yep, you would, when we do talk about my goals for the year and so on, the board would understandably be, that would be one of them. Right?
Yeah.
So there's time to devote it to that. That doesn't go to something else, but yes.
anybody else have any questions? I'll just add that, because we did have this conversation in curriculum, and I did bring it up then, I also brought it up the last time we discussed it, but I just took it down. Something, that does concern me, again, nothing new here, is, our mental health supports in the school. So I do feel like we are lacking when it comes to guidance counselors and school psychologists and social workers overall. So as we bring in, students with different backgrounds and from different communities and, older kids that may have started at school somewhere else, I just want us to keep in mind, when we do go back into budget season, that as we increase our population and we do increase this program, that, we always take that into account when we make decisions on, what we have, what we currently have, and what we should have in mental health supports, just to make sure that we are prepared for everything that our students need.
I will make a motion to move expanding the open choice program to action. Is that all I need to do?
It'll be.
And then I can make a bigger motion once we get to
I
action.
move it to action under N3 now, and yeah, then you take a roll call. I mean, do you have a second?
Oh, second.
And now you have any other discussion on it? Then you do a roll call.
Any further discussion?
Oh, this is just to move it to action, the roll call vote.
Yeah, it's just move to action.
All right,
And because you're hybrid, everything is roll.
Right.
I just wanna make sure that we have the motion that, you know, it's going from 5 to 15, the grades and all that.
Oh,
kind
this
of
is
stuff.
just to move it
That's,
to action.
that's,
Then we'll,
Yeah.
delineate that in the.
Okay. Reenie?
Aye.
Brian?
All right,
Bill?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Hi.
I'm an I, so that passes. We'll move it to N3.
keeping you on your toes, right? And
Hey, Lisa, I'm all over the place here.
You're doing right.
Okay, so now I think we're gonna jump back to N2, which is the Board of Education meeting dates under board
Right,
action.
yeah, yep.
Okay,
So you got it.
You're doing great. So N2, as you recall, we had a discussion about the Board of Education meeting dates. The board took a look at it. There were some suggestions. I was asked to go back, talk about that with Jeff Love, who also works on the calendars. And so this was the feedback, but the tweaks that were requested have been made. So it's just, you go forward with what you've got with the tweaks made, or you can tell me to go back. But the reasoning for it existing the way it was is, you know, as listed here. So I mean, we're ready to roll forward, but this is just keeping in mind, the BOE meetings were historically the same on those weeks as the council. The BOE meetings were historically the second and fourth Wednesday. And the reason behind that was that it typically helped in the scheduling of other town committees and so on, as there was some predictability to it. So that's just going to, you know, maybe cause a little bit of confusion because it just isn't the way it was done, but that, you know, it doesn't have any other negative impact. And it was something that community always typically, you know, if somebody was asking, when are they? They are most typically the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. Now that would not be necessarily the case for a couple of months. So we would just have to clarify more that, you know, you've got to check the Board of Ed's website. You know, if you want to know when the meetings are, they're not gonna always be the second and fourth Wednesday. Check the website. You know, just have to make sure people are doing that. So that's it, but those modifications have been made. You can see the calendar is listed in this item. And if there's any other tweaks, now would be the time. Otherwise, you'd be simply motioning to accept this calendar, approve the updated 2026 BOE meeting dates. Second to talk about it.
we have a question for a student rep.
This isn't necessarily about the dates, but Miss Ennis, our club advisor for student council, and I both noticed that when you're on the Board of Ed website, all of like the fonts are in the same color, so you don't notice that the meeting dates like title is actually hyperlinked. So I was just wondering if there's a way to make it more accessible and more visible, because it was a bit of a challenge to find that.
Yeah, that's, we will try it too, yes, thank you for that. Yeah, so we'll maybe make it bigger or something. The software we use is not the best. So probably, Ms. Palumbo has tried to do something like that.
Yeah, I've noticed that it does as well.
But we'll try to find another way to. We are thinking of trying to find new software, but it's. The way it looks when you go to publish it is not the way it looks when it comes out the other end, so. You know, she's done a very good job, but yes, we'll look at that, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll just add, I see the value in having it the second and fourth for consistency, for public consistency. I see the value in that, even though there could be times where we have back-to-back meetings in weeks. But I also see the value in the suggestions that Brian made to have, you know, then every other week and moving a couple meetings. You know, I see that value as well, so I could, you know, personally go either way. I might lean toward the consistency for the public.
Dana?
A couple things. I agree with Bill. I like the consistency for the public, the same couple weeks that we've had in the past, you know, the public has craved consistency and clear communication from the board for as long as I can remember. So I think keeping that would be great. I do think that we could have a caveat of when it gets closer to those meetings that we have back-to-back meetings. If something does come up, we can make some changes if needed. But my question to Dr. Willett, did Jen verify that these will not conflict with any other committee meetings, town meetings? Again, there's sometimes when we've had like 3 or 4 committee meetings and then a Board of Ed meeting, which is a little extreme to ask of any one person to attend all those meetings.
I mean, with the information available, yes. Right, but everybody's doing their calendars now too. So it's with the information available. I don't think we're not gonna be able to say with 100% certainty that someone's not thinking right now that they would schedule on a, you know, first Wednesday or whatever, because they probably historically think it's open. So there's no way to say that we wouldn't overlap with something. It's just when we publish this, what we can say is, well, this was published back on September 24th and yours was published on October 5th. So ours was there first. I mean, we could say that maybe. But yes, she did her best to see what was on the radar, but she's not gonna be able to see all of that because this happens. Some of the scheduling happens. now.
Well, I would lean towards what Bill was saying with consistency with the same scheduled meetings, the same weeks of each month, and go back to the original version. Make provisions as needed for transparency and consistency, which is the way I would be leading.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Brian?
Yeah, I just wanted to say when I first had come up to make, these changes was. The part of the reason was some of these were from one week to another, and if we consider that we go from a Wednesday. Meeting that ends at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. To have Walt and the staff go back, executive. Committee go back to try to get an agenda to get it out to us for having a meeting the next Wednesday at 7 PM. A lot of times in my experience from being here that very little or things are rushed or we don't have information or, oh, we didn't have time to pull that data because we had such a fast turnaround. Instead of just moving it to one additional week to where it's spread out a lot better, or also the fact that we get to the point to where some of these, when I looked at them, there was 3 weeks in between, which is a long period of time, especially within the school year. So that's why I went to being positive to change these to the every 2-week process. It wasn't to exclude the public or to not have the public know of anything. I just was doing from a more of an operational and better for staff for getting data and be more productive in the meetings. It seemed that every 2-week meeting was more of, in my view, a successful setting up for a more successful and thorough conversation with data within the 2026 school year. So I would hope that we would vote for this, but if people don't want to, I understand that as well.
Okay, anybody else? I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the updated 2026 Board of Education meeting dates.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All right, let's roll call vote. Rainey? Aye. Brian?
Aye.
Bill?
Nay.
Dana?
Nay.
Jaden?
Nay.
Katie?
Nay.
I'm an aye. I don't know. What says that? Hold on.
No, I don't think so.
No. The motion fails with 4 noes and 3 ayes. I will entertain another motion.
And motion to go back to the previous version where our meetings were on the second, Board of Ed meetings were on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month.
You could add to that and say, motion to approve the 2026 BOE meeting dates presented in the August 27th to 25 meeting.
Yeah, but didn't that have all those?
But
Days off.
with the exception of taking off the vernacular of the days off, or, this is what we had before. Right, so you would be taking off the terminology possible cancellation. You're not making any cancellations. You're accepting what was presented on the August 27th meeting, removing the language possible cancellations.
Just-
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
But this would be what you're approving is what was presented on August 27th.
Okay.
Or not, it's up to you. You can make a motion to do that if you want or not.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the Board of Ed meeting dates that was presented on August 27th and removing the vocabulary of the possible cancellations.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Discussion? I will just say that if anyone is confused, I will be voting aye to this, and the reason I'm voting aye for both is because it really doesn't matter to me either way, so I'm okay with either one, so that's why I will be voting aye to this as well. Anybody else?
I'm voting aye for the same reason.
Okay,
Jen, I'd just like to add that it just keeps, again, dates or no dates, it just keeps consistency for the public to minimize confusion.
okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I will start with Rainey.
Aye.
Brian.
Nay.
Bill.
Aye.
Dana.
Aye.
Jaden.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
And I am an aye, that passes. Okay. Where are we? Okay, so now we're going to do the new board action N3, correct? Which is the open choice.
Yeah.
So I guess I can start that with entertaining a motion if anyone is ready to do that.
Make a motion to expand our open choice program to
Seats. 5 seats.
5 seats for first grade and second grade. To be combined with the existing 5 seats for kindergarten.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, oh, never mind.
Yeah, can have it.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand, but here's my voice. Quick question. Was there any consideration, and we might have talked about this, and we definitely did talk about this in the last meeting, to, before we expand to first and second grade, sort of expanding the, at the kindergarten level? Number one, I can't remember if we discussed that in length last meeting, and number two, if we did not, I'm just sort of curious here.
You mean an additional seat?
In additional seats.
I don't remember
I
discussing that.
remember discussing that. I guess a good question, Jaden, would be on a yearly basis, Dr. Willett, when we allow 5 kids in, do we have, in the kindergarten level, do we have a waiting list after the 5? Or are we just,
Not currently, I think, the other, thought process at the time was it's roughly one classroom, one student coming in per classroom per set. So I was looked at as a skill, as a manageable number of new students to come in from, to the school from. And if you do
Gotcha.
it in 3 different grades, your escalator is potentially 15 kids per year coming in, that type of thing was.
Into Birch Grove.
So when you talk about, can you manage it, can you, do it well, that's all part of that. I mean, technically, you could do, we will do one new child for every teacher in the grade. That, is a classroom teacher, but that fluctuates year to year too, it's a little less, it's a little harder to nail that down. So it just settled on 5.
Does that answer your question, Jaden?
It does, and it brings up, other points that, we discuss, in January, February, March, and et cetera. So no, that answers it. Thank you both.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, then I think we're ready to vote. Rainey? Aye. Brian?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
And I am an aye. That motion passes. Okay. All right, that brings us to public participation. So comments from the public must be limited to items on this agenda, and there is a 2-minute limit. So given that we have no one in the room, I will look online, see if anyone from the public would like to say anything. Going once. Going twice. We're all set. We can close public participation. Jumping to points of information, would anyone from the board like to say anything at this time? Nope. Okay.
Well, future.
Journey?
And we'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No. Rainey?
Aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
And I am an aye. We will adjourn at 9:07 PM. Thank you.